Okay, so we're still on chapter 5, page 120. So what I did here is your textbook image of the carbon cycle can be a little confusing. So the key words and terms that you need to know I have drawn here. So I suggest you pause the video and copy it down for later use. First off, we're going to start with your producers, okay? So your plants, all of your autotrophs, they're all there, your producers. Okay, so again, this is the carbon cycle. Okay, so your producers, we all know they undergo photosynthesis, and that's where they create oxygen. All right, now, and then what happens is after photosynthesis, our consumers, aka us, we inhale the oxygen that the producers create. We give off cellular respiration, which produces CO2, and then it goes back. This is not a perfect loop. The big thing you have to remember is the producers actually do not get the oxygen from the CO2. They actually get it from the water in the atmosphere. All right, so just keep that in mind that the producers, and this is a misconception, they do not get their oxygen from carbon dioxide. Okay, now what happens is a lot of our producers, we burn them. All right, we burn trees or ethanol, a lot of our biomass, we burn them. All right, and unfortunately when you burn that, that goes off into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Now, producers, they also will do carbon in the ground, same as animals when they die. All right, and I forgot to put die here, so let's do that. Okay. Okay, so when our consumers and producers die, they basically become carbon in the ground, all right? And after millions and millions of years, they become ancient carbon, which is basically fossil fuels, which we eventually burn and then is released into the atmosphere again as CO2. Right, so that's a simplified version of the carbon cycle. Now, how do humans affect the carbon cycle? Well, here you go. Big one is we mine and burn fossil fuels, okay? We cut down forests. So when we cut down forests, that's less times where we can convert the CO2 to oxygen. All right, we then burn forests and other biomass. So now we're just adding extra CO2 to the atmosphere. And the problem with that is every time we add more CO2 to the atmosphere, we're actually causing global warming. So we're increasing that natural effect of global warming, which we'll talk more about later. All right, the nitrogen cycle. All right, why do we need nitrogen? Okay, DNA, all right? This is why we eat plants and animals. It's a way that humans can get nitrogen, all right? And all plants need nitrogen or else they can't grow either. So nitrogen is a really important nutrient that both consumers and producers need in order to survive. So again, here is my simplified version of the nitrogen cycle. This is the most difficult one out of all of them that we will cover in class. So make sure you copy this down. All right, so first thing, you have nitrogen gas in the atmosphere, all right? Nitrogen gas can be converted directly into NH4 through fixation, all right? Now, remember, the only things that can do fixation directly and use the atmospheric gas is your nitrogen-fixing bacteria, these little nodules on the roots of your legume plants, and that is the only ones who can create it, all right? Then eventually nitrogen gets put onto other producers, and through assimilation, which is how we get nitrogen, okay? Consumers eat the producers, all right? And that's how we get nitrogen in our system. Eventually, our waste will go here. All right, now our waste undergoes the process of nitrification. All right, this is with all of the dead things. And nitrification is where we create nitrite, so NO2. All right, now you have all these dead things, your decomposers and your fungi, and basically they are going to convert it into ammonia, which is through ammonification. So this is the long way to do it, short way to do it, okay? Eventually ammonification, or ammonia gets converted to nitrite, and that's how that goes, all right? And then eventually your nitrite goes into your nitrate, all right? Which is NO3, and then that can be uptaken by your plants and then finally used. All right, the other big thing is sometimes your nitrate will be released as nitrogen gas again through the process of denitrification. Okay. So just keep all this stuff in mind. But you definitely need to know which process out of all these is creating which form of nitrogen. Okay? And just remember your legumes, that can be your peanuts, that can be your soybeans, your beans. They just have these special roots and nodules where your NH4, which is where all the bacteria lives, and that's your nitrogen fixing bacteria. All right, so nitrogen fixation. So that's when you go from atmospheric gas to your, it should be NH4. All right, so this can happen through lightning or from your nitrogen fixing bacteria. All right, as I'd mentioned down here in your textbook. Okay. It happens in a legume, so if you look at this lovely here, here's your little nitrogen fixing bacteria and that stuff. So nitrification, this is when your convert your NH3 to NO to nitrate and then eventually to nitrates. Okay, and your plants like nitrates. That's their goal. All right. Denitrification is where you can convert your nitrates to nitrogen gas. Okay. Ammonification. This is the decomposition of animal waste, and you have ammonia as your leftover. All right. It's toxic to aquatic life, so just keep that in mind. Ammonia is bad. All right, assimilation. This is when you take in nitrates through plant roots or by eating food for animals. So this is how different organisms get what they need. All right. Now, how do humans alter the nitrogen cycle? Well, there's the Haber-Bosch process, and this is where we make synthetic nitrogen for fertilizer. So unlike phosphorus, we can actually make synthetic nitrogen. So we're adding all this extra nitrogen that's not naturally part of the ecosystems. All right. We also, when we burn fossil fuels, release NO2, and that's another air pollutant, which again aids into the global warming. If we plant a lot of legumes or soy, we can also alter the amount of nitrogen in the soil. And last but not least, acid rain. Okay, we can create nitric acid. This is a major problem in certain places, specifically in California. And so that's when this all happened. And again, Haber-Bosch was actually figured out during World War II. Okay. All right, your phosphorus cycle. All right, their largest reservoir of phosphorus is in the rocks or the sediment on Earth, okay? Weathering of rock released into the ecosystem. That's a limiting factor. And as we said before in the beginning, this is limiting because it takes forever to happen. Also, can't be synthetic. There is no man-made version of phosphorus, all right? So we can only get it from the rock, or it's gonna be harvested in guano, which is seagull poop, or from bat cave poop. Yes, all right? Just remember, phosphorus with a P, P for poop, okay? They go hand in hand. So it's one of the other ways we can get phosphorus naturally is basically harvesting the gigantic mountains of guano or bat cave poop. All right, again, there is a easier drawing of your phosphorus cycle here. So again, you got your producers, all right? Your consumers are gonna eat all the plants to get phosphorus. Eventually, this animal waste is gonna get converted or with dead organisms and then get taken up again by the producers of the phosphorus. If we weather rocks, that produces phosphorus, which the plants can take up again. Or if we mine the guano or manure or rocks mining, sprinkle it on our crops as fertilizer, and then it gets to the producers again. So super simple. Okay. how humans alter the phosphorus cycle. We use detergents with phosphorus, which runs into our streams and rivers. So a lot of your cleaning detergents, your dish soaps, your shampoos, things like that, a lot of them contain phosphorus. You might notice now lately that a lot of natural brands are promoting that they are phosphate free. It's not only better for you, because too much of something is always not that good, but it's also better for the environment. Untreated sewage in high phosphorus. Again, not so much a problem for us here in like richer countries, because we do treat our sewage, but it's more of a problem in the poorer countries where they do not, or when there is a sewage leak or sewage break, then that's a big problem. The major problem for us is crop fertilizers. Okay, we're adding so much extra to our produce to grow in our farms that it's all running off and washing away into our waterways. The last thing in this chapter you need to focus on is this: managing nutrient enrichment requires diverse approaches. You should know all these reasons on ways to prevent eutrophication. They're great explanations. You should know them all. But again, just like, for example, you could not just say reduce fertilizer use. All right, that would not be enough for a point. You would have to say what the textbook says: reducing fertilizer use on farms and lawns and timing its application to reduce water runoff. You have to do that whole nice explanation. All right, or here, improving technologies in sewage treatment plants. You can't just say that. You have to say to enhance nitrogen and phosphorus capture so that excess is not released into the bodies of water. So definitely review these bullet points here, because these are definitely great answers to FRQs. And again, eutrophication is a popular topic that they like to pick up. Okay, and that is it for chapter 5.